Yes, that's perfect. Amen. So 18 starts. We see here the Danites are seeking territory. So 18 starts with, in those days, there was no king. We always talked about that when they fall back into idolatry. Usually there's no one governing them. So in 18, verse 1, in those days there was no king of Israel. And in those days, the tribe of the Danites were seeking an inheritance for themselves to live in. For until that day, an inheritance had not been allotted to them as a possession amongst the tribes of Israel. So the sons of Dan, verse 2, went from their family, 5 men out of the whole number, valiant men from Zor and Eshtaol to spy out the land and to search it. And they said to them, go search the land. And they came to the hill country of Ephraim, to the house of Micah, and lodged there. When they were near the house of Micah, they recognized the voice of a young man, the Levite, and they turned aside there and said to him, who brought you here? And what are you doing in this place? And what do you have here? And he said to them, thus and so has Micah done to me, and he has hired me, and I have become his priest. And they said to him, inquire of Yah, please, that we may know whether our way on which we are going will be prosperous. And the priest said to them, go in peace. Your way in which you are going has Yahuwah's approval. Then the 5 men departed and came to Laish and saw the people who were there and living in security after the manner of the Sidonians, quiet and secure, for there was no ruler humiliating them for anything in the land. And they were far from the Sidonians and had no dealings with anyone. When they came back, we're in verse 8, to their brothers at Zor and Eshtaol, their brothers said to them, what do you report? And they said, arise, and let us go up against them. For we have seen the land, and behold, it is very good. And will you sit still? Do not delay, and go to enter the possession and possess the land. When you enter, you shall come to a secure people with a spacious land, for Yah has given it into your hand, a place where there is no lack of anything that is on the earth. Then from the family of the Danites, from Zor and from Eshtaol, 600 men armed with weapons of war set out. And they went up and camped at Kiriath Jearim in Judah. Therefore they called the place Mahane Dan. To this day, behold, it is the west of Kiriath Jearim. And they passed from there to the hill country of Ephraim and came to the house of Micah. Verse 14. Danites take idols, Michael's idols. Then the 5 men who went to spy out the country of Laish answered and said to the kinsmen, do you know that there are in these houses an ephod and the household idols and graven images and molten images? Now therefore consider what you should do. And they turned aside there and came to the house of the young man, the Levite, of the house of Micah, and asked him of his welfare. And the 600 men, armed with their weapons of war, who were with the sons of Dan, stood by the entrance of the gate. Now the 5 men who went to spy out the land went up and entered there, and took the graven images, the ephod and the household idols, and the molten image, while the priest stood by the entrance of the gate with the 600 men armed with weapons of war. And when these went into Micah's house and took the graven images, the ephod and household idols, and the molten image, the priest said to them, what are you doing? And they said to him, be silent. Put your hand over your mouth and come with us and be to us a father and a priest. It is better for you to be a priest of the house of one. Is it better for you to be the priest of the house of one man, or to be the priest to a tribe and a family of Israel? And the priest's heart was glad, and he took the ephod and household idols and graven image and went along the people. Then they turned and departed and put the little ones and the livestock and the valuables in front of them. When they had gone some distance from the house of Micah, when the men who were with the house in the houses near Micah's house assembled and overtook the sons of Dan. And they cried to the sons of Dan who turned around and said to Micah, what is the matter with you, that you have assembled together? And he said, you have taken away my gods which I made, and the priests I have gone away, and what do I have besides? So how can you say to me, what is the matter with you? And the sons of Dan said to him, do not let your voice be heard among us, lest fierce men fall upon you and you lose your life with the lives of your household. So the sons of Dan went on their way, and when Micah saw that they were too strong for him, he turned and went back into his house. Then they took what Micah had made and the priests who had belonged to him, and came to Laish, to a people quiet and secure, and struck them with the edge of the sword. And they burned the city with fire, and there was no one to deliver them, because it was far from Sidon, and they had no dealings with anyone. And it was in the valley which in near Beth Rehob, and they rebuilt the city and lived in it. And they called the name of the city Dan, after the name of Dan their father, who was born in Israel. However, the name of the city formerly was Laish. And the sons of Dan set up for themselves a graven image, and Jonathan the son of Gershom, the son of Manasseh, he and his sons were priests to the tribe of the Danites until the day of captivity of the land. So they set up for themselves Micah's graven images, which he had made at the time that the house of Yah was in Sheol. Okay, so they seek territory. So we see that in the beginning it says that they went out to seek. There was no king in the land, and that then they went to seek an inheritance for themselves. And because before until that day, an inheritance hadn't been allotted. But we know that this has taken place at least 25 years after the land had been allotted, um, because it states no inheritance, but in Joshua 23, somebody get Joshua 23, 4 through 5. I believe it is. Joshua 19. Somebody look at Joshua 19 and 40, and somebody get Joshua 23, 4 through 5. After they had crossed over, you know that everybody was allotted their um, their portion of land when they crossed over. And so it'll clarify some things, because I kept going over that. Everyone was allotted land in Joshua 19:40 through 48. So somebody read that. Yeah, Joshua 19:40 through 48. This is Joshua 19:40. And the seventh lot came out for the tribe of the children of Dan, according to their families. And the coast of their inheritance was both and that's okay. Just we still we okay. And it's so yeah. And Eris, Nick, and Shambalim, and Adolon, and Bethela, and Eli, and Samathai, and Ekron, and Elphalah, and Gilphathon, and Bathar, and Joseph, and Benabah, and Jacqueline, and Mar, Jacon, and Lacon, in the order before their poles. Ready to say, and the poles of the children of Dan went out too little for them. Therefore the children of Dan went up to fight against Lachish and took it, and smote it with the edge of the sword, and possessed it, and dwelt therein, and called Lachish Dan. Okay. The name of Dan their God. So this is just reviewing, basically. So this is the books. Sometimes it like, and we know that. So Joshua and Judges kind of really all goes into together. Really is what it did. And so basically, we know that the land had been allotted, but it was too small, so they went in and they fought. So that clarifies it. That brings it back together. So they went in, but then in that time, now so it's not too long after, 25 years later, we get out of captivity and we go into the land and we get our inheritance. And what do we do? You see it all here, right here in 18. They appointed a priest. They hired him. He was for hire. He was a hireling. And I'll go into. You see that if you look at verse 5, where it says, and then they said to him, inquire of Yah, please, once they get to the house. And Micah had a priest. He hired him, made an ephod, made some idols, and I'm gonna point you here. We just saw that in Moray's lesson, in his sermon, where we look at Cain, and he said, okay, sin desires to have you. Wouldn't your countenance wouldn't fall if you do it? I would delight in your offering if you do it according to how I've called you, how I set up the offering system or the sacrificial system. But Cain is an example right here of the first um, creating his own religion. Basically, I want to do it my way. So since I want to do it my way, I'm going to grab a priest. I'm going to get somebody who is from the land. That I'm gonna get a priest, and we're gonna hire him, and he's gonna do what we tell him to do. Because you see this all right here, and that's what we're looking at right here. So right here, Micah hired a Levite. Okay, he knew he had to. They knew the law, but they wanted to manipulate it to work for them, manipulating the order of operation, witchcraft in it. Because okay, we know a Levite, only a Levite can be a priest. So we'll get a Levite, and then saying, okay, we got a Levite. Okay, y'all must gonna bless the Levite. And so now you go and you inquire with him. So you see in verse 5, it says, and then they said to him, inquire of Yah, please, and see that we may know whether or not our way will be prosperous. And it didn't say nothing about the priest going to inquire with Yah. It just says the priest just answered. We want to be successful, but the priest just, oh yeah, Yah said, go ahead. So here we see what they're doing. They trusted in man. Man has appointed man. And if somebody gets 1 Samuel 3, and then somebody else get John 6 and 44. Who calls the man of Elohim? Men don't call him. 1 Samuel 3. Let's just start reading. Start with 1. It was a verse. Let's see. Okay, because it talks about it all here in 3. So, you know that Samuel's mother dedicated him to the temple, Hannah. And so, read, we see it here all the way through verse, somebody, okay, just read 1 and then read verse 8 through 10, or 11. So who calls the minister? Who calls the priest? Yah. And if you read all in between there, you'll see that he had called him more than once. He was hearing a voice and he was running to Eli, thinking Eli was calling. He said, you know what? No. Answer him, tell him, here I am. And then it says in 11, and Yahuwah said to Samuel, behold, I am about to do a thing in Israel at which both ears of everyone who hears it will tingle. On that day, I will carry out. And they just was telling him what he was going to do. But he called Samuel as the priest at that time because he was getting ready to dethrone or take Eli off of the throne because of what he had allowed his sons to do in the temple. And somebody no. That's why there are things that you see, we'll keep going where it talks about in Deuteronomy, where it talks about a man who's been called. And if he says he's been called, or if he's having visions and dreams, then you test the word by the spirit, right? So it has to line up with the word, what the word says. You don't just walk up here and say, Yah said, I'm a teacher. No, that's not, we know that those that are called, this is not a teaching, preaching, any of that is not a task that you take on haphazardly. It is not a task that you take because you just want to be seen or you want to be held in a high position. It's a lofty position. It's a humbling position because you are responsible for what it is you administer to someone else, just as if I was a pharmacist or a nurse or a doctor. I'm administering something. Life and death. This is not. It's a higher accountability, not just life and death. It is eternal life and death. So I'm held at a high accountability. The way I walk, talk, you have to be very circumspect and intentional. It's not just something I just get it done. Oh yeah, I'm just tell them this and they because no and then that's what happened because nobody's reading because here nobody he didn't go pray. He didn't pray with him. He just said, oh yeah, so yeah, go ahead. And you're gonna have, you good. After all the shenanigans that just already went on, you done made graven images, effigies, and you're worshiping idols, and you're hired. It says, what is the Levite? Who is his inheritance? Who Yah is his inheritance. So nobody hires you and feeds you. No. Yah takes care of you. So just the fact that he did those things was a picture of that's a disobedience of Yah, exactly. So it's scary, right? But you see it. And so somebody read John 6:44. Again, it talks about him, y'all call this. John 6:44. Basically, no man can come to Yah or to Mashiach, or unless he's drawn. Nobody you ain't pay a person to say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna put you here. No, the Spirit draws you, and we see that when we looked at the criterion for meditating everything. We were looking at what Malcolm had put down is you have to know precept upon precept and to build. You don't just walk into somewhere and yeah, I'm just gonna elevate myself. That's a recipe for a disaster. Customs. You go to certain countries and you sit at a table. If you put your feet on the table and cross your feet, that's a sign of disrespect. So when you go to someone's home, even a home, you learn the customs of the land or the customs of the place. I walk to people's house, I come into people's house. If I see shoes at the door, I just do it out of habit anyway. But if you see shoes at the door, you take your shoes off and you walk in their house because you pick up the customs of the. And so what Yah did when he brought us out of the land of Mizraim, when he brought us into the promised land, before he spent 40 years letting everybody die off who were disobedient because the land was not to be defiled. And then you get into the land and then you do what you want to do. He sure didn't. Moshe, and he was considered he was the greatest and the most, is at the time, the meekest and most humblest man on the earth at that time. And that's why I laugh about that. But some Hebrews and they some stuff. Kids, when you're in leadership anyway, but I think as a mother, I always say this too. I said, children, for me, have shown me the heart that Yah has towards me and my actions towards him. Because kids will outright try you to the last second. And you be like, the part of you like, I don't want to kill my own, they're my kids. You want to kill them, but it gets close. They will get to, I used to tell my, oh, I wish I could kill you and bring you back to life. Because you don't believe that I'll do something to you. And I always tell them, I can make you do what I want you to do. But I want you to do it willingly. Because of all that I do for you, because I love you, because I feed you and take care of you. I want you to be happy to have the house clean when I come home, so I'm happy. But you want to hear my mouth. So the same thing, like with Yah, it's like, so we show, it's a reflection. I think marriage and child rearing and raising children is a reflection of how, we treat Yah. And how Yah's heart towards us too, because you become more compassionate for your children, because like, I can really hurt you. You know what? Going over here because you don't really know no better, and that's the picture of the grace too. But Yah gave him the land, took him in, he watched them fight for him. We've seen all that, and so we look at verses. We see here when we look at verses 14 and through 24, because we looked at 5. And in between 5 and 14, it just talks about what was your report. They went back after they went to the land. Oh, there's nobody governing over them. Or basically, verse 7, it says, they're living in security after the manner of the Sidonians, quiet and secure, for there's no ruler humiliating them or anything in the land, and they're far from the Sidonians and had no dealings with anyone. So we're gonna go get these people who living quietly and peacefully amongst them, but they don't have no leader, nobody's governing them, and we're gonna take the land. And he said, let's go up and possess the land, and there's nothing, no lack. And so from the family of the Danites, from Zor and Eshtaol, 600 men went. And then it says they in 14 they come in and they take Danites take Micah's idols. And you see where Micah basically was in 18, sorry. In 18 you see where Micah, where the Levite was basically saying, what are you guys doing? And they told him, be quiet, put your hand over your mouth. Again, you see a picture of the congregation telling the leader what to do, because in the day of old, the Levite was also the judge. So the Levite set the temple, the tempo for the temple. That's where you got the whole thing where at the time the person that was called and appointed at that time to serve. And I don't know if we go back in, I think it's in the Levitical, each Levite had an allotted time that they did serve. Because, you know, once a year, one of them was picked to go into the holies of holies and to represent and sacrifice for the people. And if he didn't have his stuff right, if he hadn't been praying, if he hadn't done the ceremonial cleansing right, and if he had aught in his heart, and if he had hidden the sin, and that bell was tied to his leg, and he in there serving him, and if you didn't keep hearing that bell, you knew it was time to drag him on out because he done dropped dead. So yeah, the judgment was swift. Okay, again, you can't come before the Father any old kind of way. So you just see here what was going on, and so the people, and you see that the reversal of once your own religion is set up, the people telling the priest, who is the leader, what to do, because the Levites had an order of operation, and we saw that when they were journeying in the wilderness, they had the ones that put up the tent, set the tent, and carried the nuts and bolts to put the tent together. You had each tribe had an order, and Judah went in, and they went in first and prayed before the Ark of the Covenant, and then you had the Levites. Judah went before the Levites, and then you had everybody else followed after them. So you know the order, and so the Levites even knew the order of worship. Yes. The household idols. It looks like basically they all idols, but you think about, okay, in the time, so maybe the carved idols had to be like an Asherah pole or something that somebody had whittled out. And so, and again, you look at that because I believe it was the Geshurites, or one of them were good with the carving and the wood and the mold, and the you had the ones that did the iron, and so you hired people within the tribe or within the nation. They all fall into. So now you got the household idols, and we'll have to look into that. And culture and context it's so important in this text and in this time to figure out what these things are, because culture and context, you can find out in this land, in this time, people living near them, what were their household idols. That's something you can go through and look up. Like, okay, so the household items of the people living in the hill country of Ephraim, close to where Micah lived, what were their graven images? What did they? So we know they were Canaanites, or Canaanites were close by. So you know, you pick up the custom of whoever's close by, and we bring in the things like we were just talking about, the stone wood. We set up idols in our heart all the time. Every man to his own way. Like I said right here, in this day there was no king. What did he do? Yes. right? And we do, we create our own, we have to assimilate with something. It's just something with human nature. And a fool is said in his heart, there is no Elohim, right? And then in our own hearts, we have, there's something that just draws us to the other side. Self first. And we want something to assimilate with, so then we create something. Vain imaginations. We vain imaginations. Yes, so we see here where they said, they told him, is it better for one man to be the household priest of one man, or a tribe over the whole family? So here you see a picture of them offering him power. This is how he has the time, right? Like how he did the accuser. He wants, I want, with that, he's obstructing and opposing what it is you're really supposed to be doing. Don't you want the power? Don't you want, you can have a whole congregation of Israel. Just one man's priest in his house. Come on, you can rule. We're going to take you and you're going to be ruler over all the brethren, over the Danites, over us. So here we have here them setting up that power and position. And that's a lot of times what people have to check their hearts with all the time. Why am I doing what I do? Do I want the prominence, the position, the power? Or am I really in ministry? Am I really here serving Yah? And then you see in 24 what Mike says. He says, you've taken away my elves, which I made, and the priests, and have gone away, and what do I have besides? So you can say to me, what is the matter with me? So he's basically saying, I'm empty without all these things, these idols. I'm not, and that's what a lot of people are, without all of the bells and whistles and the covering, or the unrighteous covering they've covered themselves. What are they? Empty. So, Baka. Mm-hmm. Empty, wicked men. Yep, absolutely. So empty, wicked men, and then you just see how they burned the city. They struck them with the edge of the sword. We're looking at verses 26 and verse 18, and there was no one to deliver them because they were far from the other people. And the Danites, we've seen that in Joshua 1940. Then they sacked the city, and it was formerly Laish. So we've seen that. So that kind of clarifies and brings that back together, where it says that in the beginning in 18 there was no inheritance. They weren't given, but they were given an inheritance, and it was too small, so they went out and conquered another part of land. Yes, yes. And so they, the tribe of Dan, lived there, and with their graven images, with the sun that they had set up for themselves. And Jonathan, the son of Gershom, the son of Manasseh, he and his sons were priests to the tribe of Danites until the day of captivity in the land. So you see that they had more brethren ruling over them, and they got to do what they wanted to do until the time of captivity. And they said they set it for themselves Micah's grave images. So Micah's grave images were appointed until the day of captivity, and in the house of Yah was at Shiloh. So verse 19, we just gonna see it getting worse. 19 says, now it came about in those days, there was still no king. We're in chapter 19, in Israel, and there was a certain Levite staying in the remote part of the hill country of Ephraim, who took a concubine for himself from Bethlehem. It gets worse, right? In Judah. What's a concubine? Pretty much, right? So a concubine. But listen, so the concubine, yeah, she's not doing everybody, but she could, because she's voluntarily enslaves herself, primarily for sexual purposes. Um, in your Hebrew Strong's 6370, her name, it's in the Hebrew is Pilegesh. So Pei, Ayin, Lamed, Gimel and Shin. And if somebody want to play with those letters and find the functional definition of it, you can. But she was hired, and usually if you had a concubine, means you had a wife, right? So he said he took a concubine for himself. So now we hear the priest. What is the priest? What is a priest supposed to be? The man of one what? Okay, so we see the further degradation. They just, again, there was no king, and they just doing what they want to do. And so a certain Levite in the country of Ephraim took a concubine for himself from Bethlehem and Judah. But his concubine, she played the harlot. They weren't a harlot, were they? Yes, she did. She played it. It says right here in verse 2, she played the harlot against him, and she went away from him to her father's house in Bethlehem and Judah, and was there for a period of 4 months. Then her husband arose and went after her to speak tenderly to her in order to bring her back, taking with him his servant and a pair of donkeys. So she brought him into her father's house, and when the girl's father saw him, he was glad to meet him. So she ran off, played the harlot, went home to daddy, and she was gone for a period of 4 months. And I kind of just was kind of going over in my mind. It didn't really say, but usually if you have a wife and you have a concubine, the concubines were used as surrogates, and you see where that was permissive, but not in the beginning ordained. So he went to go get her back. So we don't know if he had a wife, she couldn't have kids. Just as a certain man, didn't tell his name, any of those things. And her father was glad to meet him. Verse 4. And his father-in-law, the girl's father, detained him, and he remained with him 3 days. So they ate and drank and lodged there. And it came about on the 4th day that they got up early in the morning and prepared to go. And the girl's father said to the son-in-law, sustain yourself with a piece of bread, and afterwards you may go. So both of them sat and ate and drank together. And the girl's father said to the man, please be willing to spend the night, and let your heart be merry. Then the man arose to go, but his father-in-law urged him so that he could spend the night there again. And on the 5th day he arose to go early in the morning. And the girl's father said, please sustain yourself and wait until afternoon. So both of them ate. When the man arose to go along with his concubine and servant, his father-in-law, the girl's father, said to him, behold, now the day is drawn to a close. Please spend the night. Lo, the day is coming to an end. Spend the night here, that your heart may be merry. Then tomorrow you will arise for your journey, so that you may go home. But the man was not willing to spend the night. So he arose and departed, and came to a place opposite Jebus, that is Jerusalem. And there were with him a pair of saddled donkeys. His concubine also was with him. Verse 11. When they were near Jebus, the day was almost gone, and the servant said to his master, please come and let us turn aside into the city of the Jebusites and spend the night in it. However, his master said to him, we will not turn aside into the city of foreigners who are not of the sons of Israel, but we will go as far as Gibeah. So you see here, he had a mind to know that I'm not going to go and lodge somewhere where the Jebusites, or people who are our enemies. We're going to go closer to people who are our brethren, basically thinking to keep the same laws, statutes, commandments, or whatever as we do. So we ain't going to stay here and sleep amongst the enemies. We're going to go to our own people. Watch this. And he said to his servant, verse 13, come and let us approach one of these places, and we will spend the night in Gibeah or Ramah. So they passed along and went their way, and the sun set on them near Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin. So they went close to Gibeah, where Benjamin, another tribe, correct? The baby, the tribe of his brother's tribe, will stay here. And they turned aside there in order to enter and lodge in Gibeah. When they entered, they sat down in the open square of the city, for no one took them into his house to spend the night. What was wrong with that? No one took you into their house. What was customary? You look Eastern Coast. You look for you look for sojourners. You look see if somebody was traveling. Oh, hey, it's getting dark. Come on in here. You look for an opportunity to be hospitable and to give your brother shelter and food and rest. That's what you do. What's the first thing we do when somebody comes to our house? We just make sure something here to eat, something here to drink, and it's almost rude to sitting around and don't nobody say, hey, you want something to drink? Would you like? It's like, okay, they don't have no manners, or you do, you like, you ain't got no home training. Ain't nobody talk to them nothing, or they not doing Torah, right? So the picture is being painted right along here. And it says, so then, verse 16, then behold, an old man was coming out of the field from his work at evening. Now the man was from the hill country of Ephraim, and he was staying in Gibeah, but the men of the place were Benjamites. And he lifted up his eyes and saw the travelers in the open square of the city. And the old man said, where are you going, and where do you come from? Again, they asked, he old man. So we see somebody still got a little bit of sense. Got some here, right? And he said to him, where are you passing from Bethlehem in Judah to the remote part of the hill country of Ephraim? For I am from there, and I went to Bethlehem in Judah, but I am now going to my house, and no man will take me into his house. Yet there is both straw and fodder for our donkeys, and also bread and wine for me, your maidservant, and the young man who was with your servant. There is no lack of anything. So basically, we can sustain ourselves, but nobody's letting us come in. And the old man said, peace or shalom to you. Only let me take care of all your needs. However, do not spend the night in the open square. So he took him into his house and gave the donkey fodder, and they washed their feet and ate and drank. While they were there, making merry, behold, the men of the city, certain worthless fellows, surrounded the house, pounding the door, and they spoke to the owner of the house, the old man, saying, bring out the man who came with you into the house, that we may have relations with him. What does this sound like? They done turned into Sodom and Gomorrah again, right? So it looks like these people, certain worthless fellows, but they were praying, lurking and waiting, seeing who was not from where. They seen them come. So again, it says, okay, we're journeying through. No one has asked for us to come into their home. But they've been watching and waiting and saw where they went to. So now we see, and these are Benjamites. So, yeah, it's been going, no king, and you just see how quickly wicked starts to trickle over. It will flow into every area of your life, just like your prayer life. Lawlessness, just like with your prayer life. Like she says, okay, first learn the laws, statutes, and commandments. Learn a scripture to meditate on. Ask Yah to examine your heart. Look at the first cases. Like we said, look at Dawid when he sinned. What did he ask? Search me and know me. Cleanse me with hyssop. Tell me where I've erred. And I'm here. I'm willing to hear it. But when I don't present myself to the king, when I don't want to hear nothing the king has to say, and when I don't want anybody over me, then I'm going to go off into my own way, and we're just birds of a feather flock together. Bad company corrupt good morals. So eventually it has affected everyone. So they want to they bring him out so we may have relations with him. A Sodom and Gomorrah moment, that was so just crazy. So she, you see the answer in 23. Then the men, the owner of the house, went out to them and said to them, no, my fellows, please do not act so wickedly. Since this man has come into my house, do not commit this act of folly. Here is my virgin daughter and his concubine. Please let me bring them to you, that you may ravish them and do to them whatever you wish. But do not commit an act of folly against this man. But the men would not listen to him. So the men seized his concubine and brought her out to them. And they raped her and abused her all night until morning. Then let her go at the approach of dawn. So you see how that does too. sin. They do everything in the dark. Do it in the dark. But as soon as the light creeps in, they flee, and they want to hide their deeds. But they came at night. They lurked and watched from afar all day, hid themselves in the daytime, but at night they presented themselves. That's a picture of the enemy, and it's like that just in our walk too. We have to be very cautious and circumspect about people who always want to come want to come behind a scene and offer information or whisper, but they don't want to bring their accusations or the things they have to say or what they want to do. They don't want to do it in the light, because you know in your heart is wrong. That's why it says eternity is in the heart of men. You know, eternity is set up in the heart of man. We have a conscience. We all know right from wrong, but we'll do what seems right to us in our own life. But you see, what even will hide themselves. So it says they seized her, and they brought, when it approached dawn, verse 25, 26. As the day began to dawn, the woman came and fell down at the doorway of the man's house, where her master was, until full daylight. When her master arose in the morning, opened the door of the house, and went out to go his way, then behold, his concubine was lying at the door of the house, with her hands on the threshold. And he said to her, "Get up and let's go." But there was no answer. Then he placed her on the donkey, and the man arose and went to his home. When he entered the house, he took a knife and laid hold of his concubine and cut her into 12 pieces, limb by limb, and sent her throughout the territory of Israel. This sounds wicked and cruel, but they murdered her. And so now he sent her out, he sent her body parts out. Basically, this is witness, like we do with the news. Now, they didn't have the news there, so this is the news. They were like, well, who is this, or who, what part? Well, to all 12 of the tribes, I'm going to send a piece of her as witness of how wicked we've become and what had happened when I was in the land of my brethren, basically. And we'll see the start of something. But we see something also, that she left her covering. Remember we talked about that in the Thursday, when we talked about our actions and consequences, even the repentance. He went to her seeking her out because she left. She went to her father's house. She went over. He said she went a whoring, but he went to bring her back. But now the consequences of your actions have befell you, have fallen upon you, because you went out a whoring. So who's to say? Yeah, they probably already had you. They really didn't even want you. That's why they wanted the man too. They just, you've been out here doing for whatever. You went home to do what you wanted to do. We don't know. It doesn't say whether she went, but you see a whoring, be a whoring after other gods. You wanted to go back home and serve, but everybody was doing what they wanted to do anyway. So we can, the imagination station can go as far as you can take it. Really, what took place. So you see that they became like Sodom and Gomorrah. He sent her body out as witness. And it came about that now it was said, nothing like this has ever happened or been seen from this day when the sons of Israel came up from the land of Mizraim to this day. Consider it and take counsel and speak up. So basically, what these men have done, I'm sending it out as witness. There's never been anything done like this since we've come out of Egypt, and now we need some counsel. And it usually is once something grotesque or brutal happens, now we want to come together and we want to rectify and consider. Nobody saw how far gone they had gone until this act was committed. Now he says, okay, let's take counsel. Somebody needs to speak up. Somebody get Proverbs 11:14. Yeah. Now we not. Yeah, this has gone too far. Yes. Proverbs 11:14. Proverbs 15:22, and Proverbs 24:6. Now he's calling for wisdom and counsel. Okay, read it. Read that one. All right, thank you. So where there is no counsel, the people fall. But where there is counsel, there is safety. So now let's get some counsel. We've seen what happened where there is no counsel. What did it say in the beginning? There was no king, no counsel. So now, okay, we need to get it together. This has gone too far. Because what it is, rape is a crime, and you know what happens when they rape. What did Yah tell him? He said, "Purge the land from sin." So everything was to be dealt with, and so at this point, nobody was dealing with anything. Nobody was. It was every man for himself. Somebody read Proverbs 15:22.
Friends fail when there is no conflict, but with many advisors they succeed.
And then somebody get Proverbs 24:6.
For by wise counsel thou shalt make thy war, and a multitude of counselors there is safety.
Again, in counsel there is safety. You, you, you are destined to error when there is no accountability. No rules, no laws, no statutes, no commandments. You are going to go all the way far long, gone left. So there is accountability is so important to us as believers, as walking in Torah, as even teenagers growing up. You know, we have peer pressure, and it always has to be like, is there one wise one amongst us? At some point, there has to be somebody that says, have some sense. Else, you know, and we all have gone that way. I think about when I was 15, 16, and I think about some of the choices that I made, or think about some of the counsel that I considered, and I'm like, you know what? My 15, 16-year-old friend didn't have no more sense than I had at the time. So basically, they were encouraging me to do what we all didn't know no better to do. But we didn't want to hear the wisdom, because that's old fashioned. You don't know what you're talking about. But I can remember just as clear as day, my grandmother's sister, my aunt, she would always say, she said, I'm gonna be dead and gone one day, and you gonna hear what I said. Ain't nothing new under the sun. Was old as new again. I done seen it all, done it all. You're not doing nothing new. I can tell you right now what you're doing. You'd be like, how did she know? I go looking around, looking in the garbage. I throw that away. I ain't been. But you know. I'm watching. I've seen patterns, right? So if somebody wiser than me, older than me, tells me what's gonna happen, I better take heed. And the same thing with counsel. Where there is no counsel, beware of a person who shuns counsel or who gets mad. Can't tell them nothing. You can't, you know. And it's another thing. It's one thing to have a relationship with someone and they trust you and they hear your words. And then it's another thing for somebody just, there is no relationship, there is no, I don't know how much you care about me and you just want to speak into my life because you're observing. But there is always a recipe for counseling or encouraging or taking someone under your wing. You have to first gain their confidence and their trust. But, you know, with the kids, if you see something that needs to be corrected, sometimes it's necessary to just correct at that time. And then you tell them, hey, look, I see this and this and this about to happen. When we're amongst one another and we see our kids, I'd be angry if somebody watched the car coming and watched somebody hit my kid because, well, it ain't my bad. I wasn't going to say nothing because I don't want nobody to get mad at me. No, that's danger. You impeding danger. You going to watch somebody kill the kid? No, you don't. But again, in walking in this walk, it's brother and sister. If you see your brother or sister moving towards error or destruction, you're like, hey, I don't think that's cool. You know, you might. I'm telling you, dating, because I know I've been just talking about just holistically getting yourself together, and that is. Holistic is your mind, body, and soul. Everything. Sometimes you have to elevate. You have to separate. You have to purge. And you have to remove people from your life. You have to remove certain conversations, certain places, people, even, you know, their thoughts. their thoughts are subconscious. They in our mind at night. You listen to what somebody else saying. You go to meditating on it and thinking on it. Like, you know what? I might need to not talk to this person. Every time I talk to them, they negative. You know, every time I talk to this person, they're talking about something way long time ago, or they critiquing the person and the teacher. Just, it's always something. There's no the fellowship is bad. I need to remove myself. So here we see where in counsel there is safety. In accountability there is safety, because sometimes people can see what you're not looking for. So we get here to verse 20 in Judges 20. After this heinous act has been committed and no one has ever seen anything like it, we see they want to resolve to punish the guilty. At this point, they call for counsel, come together. It says, then the sons of Israel from Dan to Beersheba, including the land of Gilead, came out, and the congregation assembled as one man to Yahuwah at Mitzvah. What does mitzvah mean? What is mitzvah? Bar, mitzvah. What is mitzvah? It's kind of where you give it a law. Mitzvah is law, right? Am I correct? When, yeah, the commandment. In Hebrew. So mitzvah, it says they came out, it including the land, came out at the congregation, assembled as one man to Yahuwah, to hear what he was going to command at mitzvah, or at the command. Judges 20. So after this heinous act, they all come together Ehad as one now. Now this has got everybody's attention. They done raped the woman, they done killed the woman, the husband has cut her up and as a witness sent her body out in 12 pieces to all tribes. Got everybody's attention. Now everybody's alert, and now they come back before Yahuwah, because remember, they assembled. They hadn't been assembling as a congregation because there was no king over the nation. Everybody was doing what they wanted to do. Now they've all come together. And the chiefs of all the people, even of all the tribes of Israel, took their stand in the assembly of the people of Yah, 400,000 foot soldiers who drew the sword. So the chiefs, we know the chiefs, as with each tribe there was a chief appointed. Everybody's come together now. Okay, now we have, like we do when one of us is killed or murdered in the streets. Everybody come together now. They're gonna march. We're gonna do whatever, but nobody's keeping the law. Nobody is seeing what has caused it to go so far. Nobody's keeping law. Nobody's keeping Torah. Nobody's obeying. Just a simple command as to stop and sit yourself down. It's still obeying the command. I just taught my kids as kids. Obey my voice. If I say get down, don't ask me what, where, why, how. Duck. If I say it, just do it. Just do what I say. Do. Obey my voice. There is safety and refuge in obeying my voice. Don't step off that curb. Don't look back and do it anyway. I'm gonna do it. Okay, and the car was gonna hit you. Those kind of things. So it's like, learn to obey my voice. When I command it, do it. And so that's a practice. It's something that's been put into practice. Like you said, things that are practiced in the house. You see kids come out in public, and usually how kids act in public is how they act at home. You know what I mean? People are like, oh, your kids are so good. And I'm like, yeah, it's funny. I said, but when they in the house, I would let them, they could play all throughout the house, but they knew at certain times. If I say sit down at the table, we sat at the table to eat. We did this in this part of the house. Your room, you keep your room a certain way. There were things, it was order. So these are practices that were taking place. And verse 3 says, now the sons of Benjamin heard that the sons of Israel had gone up to Mitzvah, and Yahuwah and the sons of Israel said, tell us, how did this wickedness take place? So now they acting like they don't know. Okay, tell us what happened. How did this wickedness take place? What happened? So the Levite, the husband of the woman who was murdered, answered and said, I came with my concubine to spend the night in Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin. But the men of Gibeah rose up against me and surrounded the house at night. Because of me, they intended to kill me. Instead, they ravished my concubine so that she died. And I took hold of my concubine and cut her in pieces and sent her throughout the land of Israel's inheritance, so that for they have committed a lewd and disgraceful act in Israel. No, she was already dead. They killed her. They raped her and killed her. They ravished her. They intended to rape and kill him, but it said they raped her until morning, and they left her at the door. And when he called to her, there was no answer, which implied she was deceased. So they killed her. They murdered. They raped her, and they disgraced her until. Basically, look what has happened in the land. That's what, yes. And then we know, based on law, again, if you witnessed an act, Deuteronomy 21:21, somebody get that? And Deuteronomy 17, I think it's 34, Psalms 91. So basically what he did is, there has a heinous act has taken place. It's evidence. What it says again, you go back and you try the case. The same thing what Yah did with Cain. It's like, oh, where's your brother? Am I my brother's keeper? His blood is crying out for a redeemer. The kinsman redeemer, the avenger of blood, has been awakened. I hear his blood crying out. Somebody has to rectify what's it. There's no shalom without shalem, reconciling, balancing the scales. Now you have upset order. You have raped and murdered. You wanted to commit sodomy. Yeah, you wanted to commit sodomy and then basically murder, because you want to kill me, and then you want to do away with the evidence of what you've done, but you left evidence. So now I'm going to send the evidence of what you've done all over the land. Let them know. So now it's time to bring you to court. Bring everybody to the, like I said, bring it to the carpet. And so it says, behold, all the sons of Israel, give your advice and counsel here. Then all the people arose, and as one man saying, not one of us will go to his tent, nor will any of us return to his house. But now this is the thing which we will do to Gibeah. We will go up against it by lot. And we will take 10 men out of 100 throughout the tribes of Israel, and 100 out of 1,000, and 1,000 out of 10,000 to supply food for the people, that when they come to Gibeah of Benjamin, they may punish them for all the disgraceful acts that they have committed in Israel. Thus all the men of Israel were gathered against the city, united as one man. Then the tribes of Israel sent men throughout the entire tribe of Benjamin, saying, what is this wickedness that has taken place among you? Now then, deliver up the men, the worthless fellows in Gibeah, that we may put them to death and remove this wickedness from Israel. But the sons of Benjamin would not listen to the voice of their brothers. So they went, and they went to, we see here, again, where the priests were supposed to judge, and the people have taken authority over the entire congregation, or over the land. There is no, the houses have fallen into idolatry, and no one wants any accountability. We're looking at 20:12 through 17. So they wouldn't deliver them up. Accountability here, there has to be accountability. One bad apple can spoil the whole bunch. All we asking for is the men that did it. You guys are still covering for them. So if I cover for someone, which basically means what? I agree. So in verse 12, we see them first offering peace. When you go to Deuteronomy 20:10 and 11, somebody get that. And then somebody get Psalms 127. 120 and 7. 20. Yeah, Deuteronomy 20:10 and 11. 120, verse 7.
Deuteronomy 20 and 11. And it shall be, if it make thee answer.
10 through 10 verse.
Oh, okay. Deuteronomy 20 and
10.
10.
Mhm.
When thou comest nigh unto a city to fight against it, then proclaim peace unto it.
So we offering peace first. We're not gonna kill everybody. We just want, because we've assembled now. We've come with 10,000 men because we're ready to go to war. Because we have to purge the sin from the land. But just give us who we need. Give us who's guilty, and this will purge the sin from the land. But since you don't want to give them up, now we're going to wipe out the whole city. So that's that thing. One man is, just like with Adam, by one man sin entered the entire human race, right? And by one man's obedience, salvation was given. So we see here this picture. So okay, we just want these men, give them to us. And in war, you go first and you offer peace. You offer peace first. Can we reason together? I don't want to have to do all of this. But we have to balance the scales. For there to be restore balance, there has to be restitution paid. Their lives are they owe their life. They took a life. There is no, just like we said, where there's potential or intentional sin, there was no offering for intentional sin. There was only like the doves and for what do you call it, sins of omission. Do not just outright blatantly committed, just might come upon a dead body, ceremonial things, but there was no offering for pretentious or just intentional sin. Somebody read Psalms 120 and verse 7. So basically, by them rejecting, giving up the men, you said you want to fight. And now, let's not forget, this is going to be a huge mess, because now this is a part of the 12 tribes. So we're going to have a civil war now, because we have gone so abase and so far with our dealings, our believing, our practices, that we're willing to fight one another because you want to cover sin, basically. And it says, so then they got together with one voice and their brethren, and they, verse 13, and let's remove the wickedness. But the sons of Benjamin would not listen to the voice of their brothers, the sons of Israel. Verse 14, and the sons of Benjamin gathered from the cities of Gibeah to go out to battle against the sons of Israel. So now they're going to fight their brothers. And from the cities on that day, the sons of Benjamin were numbered 26,000 men who drew the sword, besides the inhabitants of Gibeah, who were numbered 700 choice men. Out of all the people, 700 choice men were left-handed. Each one could sling a stone at a hair and not miss. Then the men of Israel, besides Benjamin, were numbered 400,000 men who drew the sword. All these were men of war. So they wanted to fight. And they were mighty, valiant men, and rogues, and doing unmentionable. But you want to fight your brother. Yes, your blood brother. So here in verse 18, we see the beginning of a civil war. And it often takes a crisis to make us do what we should have done in the very beginning. You know what I mean? What we should have been doing in the very beginning, it always takes a crisis. It takes something crucial to happen. Because we get lazy, we get lax, we get, just real laid back. And then something horrible happens, and now we're going to go back to the fundamentals. And we could take it as so simple as, I know when I wake up and I just been going on my merry way, and then one day I go try to put on a pair of pants. I'm like, ooh, I need to lose 10 pounds. I got real comfortable. I stopped getting up, working out, stopped doing it. It's just something has to trigger that, because it's just something about us and our human nature. It's like we just can get real complacent, comfortable. And so it is a practice walking in Torah is something that you have to do daily. You have to. Every step of the way, I have to bring my thoughts under the obedience of the word, under Hamashiach. I have to take every thought captive. I can't let, like in our bodies, free radicals run loose. What happens? You end up with cancer, right? And what does it do? It eats at you from the inside out. Nobody knows that they have cancer until they go and or they feel a lump. It's like, shoot, it's something been growing inside of me, and it's something that I hadn't paid attention to till you start to feel the pain or the ache or whatever it is. And so that's the thing with sin. We just get real complacent and comfortable with it because we haven't been checking it. And then we find ourselves falling into these acts, or how did I get this far? How did this situation go? Oh yeah, it's very innocent at first, and then it's like, ooh, that's the enemy though, right? Do not leave a crack in the door. You got to keep that door sealed, shut, closed. Don't open and unlock doors, and give him room to are they coming out? They told us 15 minutes. Okay, so the men are coming out. And so we're going to stop here at verse 18, and we'll continue next week with verse 18, chapter 20. We'll go on with the Civil War and what happened. All right, shalom, ladies. Thank you for your time.